Let me restart. Okay, anyway. Person, high school, friend of mine, fell in love with a very, very fake version of me that was not real. She thought I was like this super cool emo loser who's like, didn't give a shit about anything in the whole world, super aloof, super dispassionate, uninterested in everything, right? But the reality is I was a sweaty fucking nerd who was like super into like Zelda, and I really wanted to play D&D, and I never really played it before except for one time with my older sister's friend when we played 2nd edition. I was really wanting to play Warhammer and Magic the Gathering and shit like that at the time, but I had no outlet for that, and I couldn't let people know I was a nerd because I would have got bullied really bad. So instead, I just pretended I didn't like anything, and she loved that about me. And she also was big into, like, you know, the super emo aesthetic and being super, like, fucking uncaring and yada, yada, yada. So I ended up dating her because my friend at the time, my best buddy, I think he was interested in me, honestly, but he was trying to be nice, or maybe he just thought I wasn't interested, which at the time, to be fair, I probably wouldn't have been. So he tried to set me up with her, and I said no for a long time. And then eventually he kind of wore me down, and I was like, okay, I will try dating her. So I ended up dating her. And our first date was to maybe an ice skating. I think our first date was at an ice skating rink. Yes, I do remember this. Our first date was at an ice skating rink. No, it's a rollerblading. It was rollerblading, and I remember I was not a good rollerblader. So I, true to my persona, I sat out on the outskirts and just seemed really like kind of pensive and lost in thought and kind of like just sad boy hours. Like I can't rollerblade because I'm too busy thinking about how much life sucks type of energy. You know what I mean? So I just kind of sat out there, and really I was probably, I don't know, thinking about like the latest episode of fucking Pokemon or some stupid shit. I was probably thinking about how much I wanted to go home and play WoW. And I remember that they were having an okay time. It was my buddy. He was out there with her, and she was skating, and then maybe one other friend. Yeah, and then she came back and sat by me, and she was like, hey, you got something in your eye, Ruse. And I was like, what? She's like, you got something in your eye. I was like, oh, okay. She's like, let me get it. And then after she blinded my ass by putting her thumb in my eye, she snuck a kiss, you little savage. That was actually my first kiss. Yeah, she snuck a kiss on me, and I was like, what the fuck? I remember being so blindsided, I kind of just didn't react. And I was like, huh. She's like, oh, that bad? I'm like, no. It was good, question mark. So that was my first ever date, but here's the uncomfortable one. Let me tell you about that one was already uncomfortable, all right? Because, like, you gotta keep in mind, like, for everybody, I'm sure that's like, oh, that's not that bad. That's kind of normal, you know, whatever. She, you know, first kiss, that's cute. You gotta keep in mind, I was playing it completely aloof. I'm sitting there like nothing had happened, super like disinterested and uninvested in the situation. On the inside, I'm freaking the fuck out. I'm like, I've never kissed anybody in my life. Did I do shit at that? How did that happen? What was I supposed to do there? Like, I'm panicking. I'm like, oh fuck, am I supposed to kiss her now? Like, what just happened? I did not. I was too scared. But I acted just like I didn't give a shit. Anyway, next date, because I was too afraid to break it off. And at this point in our relationship, I very much did not want to be in a relationship. It's not that I didn't like this person. She was fine. She's just very obsessive and very, like, all day, every day, needs Ruse's attention all the time, no matter what. So I'm like, okay, I got to be careful, because she's getting really, really invested in this, and I'm recognizing somewhere in my heart at this point that not only am I not invested, it's unfair of me to her to be so uninvested. So, as I'm about to break it off, she invites me to go with her and her mom to see some light show in some, like, park or something. So her mom drives us, with us in the back seat, to this park. And we're like seeing this beautiful light show or whatever. It's around Christmas time or some shit like that. And she's being really touchy-feely. And I'm like, hey, man, like, your mom's right there. That's weird. Don't do that. I already don't, like, I'm already, like, uncomfortable because I'm scared and I don't know how to, like, handle a situation like that. But then on top of that, she's being weird with her mom in the front seat. So I'm like, don't do that. And then the whole time, her mom is just in abject silence. Unspeaking, no words, right? I'm like, well, that's uncomfortable to a degree. And then we do our little, like, outing or whatever. Girlfriend's a little disappointed because I'm not reciprocating any sort of, like, I don't know, touchy-feeliness. I let her, like, lay her head on my shoulder and chill there while we look at lights. That's fine. Cool. Then we go back to her house. and her mom's house, keep in mind. And she's like, oh, you want to come check out my room? I was like, sure, I guess. I'm like, that's fine. And I go to her room or whatever, and we're like looking at all of her cool stuff. And then I'm like, she's like, goes to close the door. I'm like, no. I'm like, don't, your mom's gonna think we're doing some real weird shit. Don't do that. And she's like, Mom, do you care if I close the door? And her mom's like, no, I don't care. You guys can do whatever you want. I'll put on headphones. I'm like, so I'm like, actually, it's kind of stuffy in here. I think I want to go outside. I'm like, we should go outside. Well, like, and I think I tried to play it off super cool or whatever. I was like, I kind of just want to go, like, look at the stars. So we went outside and we laid in the grass and stared at the stars or whatever. And then I was like, okay. And at the time, what I had done was I texted my stepmom. I was like, come get me. I gotta go home. So I laid out there and stared at the stars and kind of just laid in silence, which I was trying to pass off as this cool thoughtfulness, but really was probably incredibly awkward. And then I waited till my fucking stepmom got there and I went home. And then I broke up with her like a week later, which is really a bummer. She was like, hey, come with me on a family trip to go see my grandpa. I was like, no, I'm breaking up with you. Clearly, my girlfriend wanted to move way faster than I did, and I was mortified. I had never kissed anybody in my life, and she was trying to get to some... I'm not going to go into detail, but she was definitely trying to get to some levels I was not ready for. And I was like, And in my head, you know, like, I get it, right? I was probably like 15, 16. I'm sure, like... 16, 17-year-olds, they're probably thinking about that a lot, I'm sure. There's a degree to where you're thinking about that kind of shit. But I don't know, dude, I was just a fucking nerd, all right? I was a fucking loser nerd. So all I was thinking about was how do I get to playing more WoW or, like, chilling out and, like, goofing off? How do I get to hang out with my older sister and their friends and go play, like, fucking Warhammer with them because they're the only people who play Warhammer, right? And I know what she's thinking, but to me, I'm like, I'm still a kid. I'm like, dude, I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. So I was scared, dude. Anyway, I broke that off, which is fine.